This guy used to read comics and then went to college, got out of college, got a job, basically had stopped reading, but hadn't completely lost enjoyment for it. He's homesick, and he asks his girlfriend to pick him up some Batman comics while she's out getting stuff. So, she gets his chicken soup and whatever. And he said, she brought home a bag of comics. And he said, everything but Batman. But when he got back on his feet, he found a comic book store and started buying Batman. Started getting into the stories. Yeah. This would have been about 1984 or 1985. So before The Dark Knight, before Year One, for a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he discovered comic book conventions. So he started buying even farther back issues, right, beyond what his local comic shop had to offer. He started to go back into the 1950s, Batman, Detective. And again, this was before the Michael Keaton movie. It was before Legends of the Dark Knight.
So all this stuff is really like not what it would be today.
Right.
Or even like at 90s prices.
Right.
Yeah.
So pricey, but not, as stratoscopic until you get into the early 50s and the 40s, because then prices are up there.
Right.
You are in 3 digits and 4-digit territory. That just got more so over time.
Right.
If my memory serves me, that would have been about the time that you could reasonably expect to pay less than $250,000 for a Detective 27. I think Amazing Fantasy 15 might have been 50 grand, might have been at the highest. It was still several years before Amazing Fantasy got close to $1 million and then broke $1 million. Like even Action Comics #1 was not $1 million comic yet. I want to say the highest priced comics, Action 1, Marvel Comics 1, were 300,000-ish in that vicinity.
I wouldn't have thought they got up that high yet. Or just, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually. Yeah.
I mean,
now,
it makes sense. I don't know. I didn't think, at least until, the movies started coming out and, it became...
Again, it had nothing to do with the films, and the films don't influence the values.
Yeah.
Not like people think they do. What happens, a movie comes out, and the average person, they still make Batman comics? I can't tell you how many people didn't even realize that Batman was still published when Michael Keaton movie came out. But the fans who were looking for Batman back issues in the first place just simply started looking more aggressively.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They gobbled them up faster, and the supply dipped and the demand went up. So the prices went up. But John and Joan Q. Public were not necessarily buying comic books. They were, however, buying buttons, t-shirts, keychains, action figures, and tchotchkes. Okay. There were people buying collectible items that turned into the year 2000's trash heap.
Right.
And that's what happened. So this guy started buying original artwork. The last time I talked to him, and this was calendar year 1988, so again, even the Michael Keaton movie hadn't come out, he had bought 2 pages at 2 different conventions from an issue of Detective Comics. I don't even remember which issue. But he had 2 different pages, and he was looking for a 3rd page from that same issue so he'd have a triptych of original artwork. But at this point, he was also spending thousands of dollars on his back issue Batman and original art collection.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of original art, he was concentrating on Batman. He wasn't just buying everything willy-nilly, and there was plenty of stuff to see. Mm-hmm. I think he was reading a few other comics, but mostly it was Batman. I'm assuming that with the Batmania of '89 and going forward, he must have gotten sucked down that rabbit hole and bought a whole lot of Batman stuff. I have no idea.
Right.
So that is possible. You could do that. You just start, you get your new stuff, you have your new 52 stuff, so you just slowly start working backwards from there. Slowly. And so you had to get it all. You don't have to jump right back into the 1940s right now.
That was a real long-winded way to tell me to start buying old fucking Batman comics.
Yeah, it was, man.
I did not think that's where that was going at all. But then he just decided
and then all of a sudden it just turns into a fucking sales pitch for comics.
Just start with the 90s and back into the 80s, and then, you know, back into year one and onward, and then you'll get into the late 70s in a controlled fashion. Little bits.
I did not. That was really good.
That was.
That would
I'll
get
give you credit, Troy.
a
That
more
was good.
feeble-minded person would have fell for that. And
Yeah.
immediately started buying
That
more
was good.
Batman
That
stuff.
was clever. That was real fucking
That was
clever.
good.
Well, see, you should treat yourself and get some Batmans.
Troy.
Yeah.
What?
That was good.